Welcome back to the podcast. I'm excited. We have a special trio for you. So we're recording this live at GiveCon. Thanks to our friends at Bloomerang, we have a very special group of guests for you. So I'm welcoming the Bridgewater Retirement Community folks on the development side. Let's do a round of intros before we begin.
Wonderful. I am Annie Frazier, and I am the Vice President for Development and Community Relations at BRC.
I'm Tammy Jordan. I'm the Executive Assistant.
And I'm Missy Stover, the Development Officer.
And you're a resident Bloomerang Pro.
Yes.
She's the backbone of the database, of the
is.
CRM. Amazing. Well, I think what would be nice to just start with are just some general takeaways. I feel like anytime I'm conferencing, I feel like I've been a little bit at summer camp, and it's been so fun to get everyone together, but also to get your wheels turning. And I'd love to hear anything that you're like, I'm excited to do that, or that seems interesting. Anyone want to share?
Well, one of the greatest takeaways I've came across so far was just because it isn't something that feels right to you, doesn't mean that it's the wrong thing to do.
Say more.
Well,
Yeah.
So if it's something that you would think is not a best practice, it may be, even though it doesn't feel like it should be a best practice.
Yeah, good one.
So I thought that's interesting. That's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, totally. Anyone else?
I just had an eye-opening realization of doing more deeper segmentation in our database we do a lot of segmentation now, but I'm just getting ideas of more ways we can segment and just really hone in on some.
Is there anything specific that jumps out of like a newer segment that you're like, ooh, that would be kind of fun to pull?
Actually, not really.
Okay.
I mean, it's more, my curiosity is more of what else can we do?
Yes. Yeah.
Like how much deeper can I dive?
Love it. Yeah. What about you?
I think for me, it's just, I'm really taking away the perspective of the donor, especially in how we are talking to them and collaborating with them, especially in our appeals and any communication, any forms of our communication, how we're considering the donor and speaking to the donor and the opportunity that the donor has to join us.
Yep.
And for me, that's just a little bit of a switch, because I feel like in our industry, we are so used to focusing on what our team is doing, what our residents are doing, what's important to us as a community, but really how are we shifting our focus to the donor and how they can be involved.
I love that. So let's start with this. Tell us about your community. Tell us about the work you do and kind of set the stage for that before we get into some really fun campaigns.
Great.
Yeah.
I'll go for it. Go ahead. So we are a life plan community. Some call that also a continuing care retirement community in Bridgewater, Virginia, in the Shenandoah Valley. And we serve residents in all three levels of care. So we have independent living, assisted living, and nursing.
Yep.
We are a community. We have done a lot of work over the last decade to really be on the innovative side of our industry and really focus on, we have a beautiful community that we have renovated from head to toe over the last decade, but I'd say most of our work has really been focused on our culture and how we can focus on the life that our residents get to live in our community. And we focus heavily on the engagement and relationship side, how we can focus on connections and wellness and really building out all of our wellness initiatives. It's really, I'd say those are our top things that we are known for.
Yeah. Anything else to add?
I think I captured it.
Okay.
She did a great job.
All right.
Explaining it.
Let's dig into, so initially when we met, we talked about your Live Well campaign. And in it, you raised $5 million in 18 months.
Yes.
That's fun.
Yeah, it was.
So walk us through that. Like, give us an overview of the campaign, and then we'll kind of drill down into some success points.
Okay. Well, we really started planning for it during COVID.
Okay.
So that was interesting.
That was not fun.
It was interesting. But we found out that our donors were very supportive of us, and they really felt like they could get behind what we wanted to do. This was a different campaign for us. Usually in the past, we have raised funds for bricks and mortar versus programming. And this campaign was for programming. And it was our most successful campaign yet.
Say more about the programming part.
So we knew that we had the infrastructure in place for our community. We had all these wonderful buildings, and we really didn't need to add anything to that, but we really did want to improve our programming to improve the quality of life for our residents, our team members, and the greater community even. And out of our campaign, we did create some new funds for resident programming. We created the Work Well Fund, which supports our team members, and there's a couple of funds under that. And we also, probably our best known fund is our Forever Family Fund, which helps us keep our residents at BRC if they exhaust their financial resources, because we don't kick our residents out if they run out of money.
I just want to like bookmark. You should use that in messaging. The way you said that in just normal layman's terms, we don't kick our residents out. I love that. That's really good. I would love to hear, because you just named kind of a couple of different buckets of programming that you were raising money for. And how did you disseminate that out through story, through appeals? Because that's like multiple different, like I think about donor motivation, right? And well, they might be interested in this one thing, but not that one thing. How did you roll that out in fundraising?
Through a lot of conversations.
Okay.
We had a lot of conversations with our residents, and we had an idea through our feasibility study, kind of what the bucket should be.
Okay.
And that helped us clarify what our donors' interests were and how we should divide up the funds.
And one of the things that we talked about was the culture of giving within your residents. But there are also non-resident donors.
Correct.
Let's first talk about those, the non-resident donors.
So our non-resident donors are comprised of several different groups. One is our residents' families. So we're so fortunate that not only do our residents support BRC, but frequently their family members also do. We also receive a lot of support from the local community, where our organization is entering its 60th year.
Wow.
So we have some longevity in the community, and we're fortunate that we can build on that. And also just some local businesses also are supportive.
With the resident families, and let's go there first. Are they oftentimes helping support the resident financial cost as well? Or is that typically, does that make sense?
I don't really know the answer to, because
no.
we don't really have financial information. We don't have financial information on our residents.
Okay. Yeah. I'm wondering how those donor conversations happen with the resident families, what that sounds like, what they're excited about.
I think they are happy that their family members, their loved ones, are happy at BRC, and they're so thankful for the care that they receive. And a few years ago, I ran into a friend whose mother had recently moved to BRC, and he said, we were a little hesitant when she first told us that she wanted to move to BRC. He said, because she's very introverted and is not outgoing, and it has been the best thing for her. He said, she's sitting in the cafe and chatting as people go by and saying hello. And he said, she has blossomed.
Oh, that's so good. And talk to me about the business support in the community. How did you cultivate those relationships?
Well, those relationships really are ongoing. They have developed over the years. And even prior to our current team being there, they are it's just relationships that have continued over the years. Sometimes it may be businesses that just feel very strongly about what we do, or maybe they had loved ones who also were at BRC.
Yeah. Now let's move to the residents.
Yes.
So not the same, but adjacent. I'm thinking about a couple of clients who sort of lament, right? The people we serve are already experiencing this crisis. So, for example, an organization that might serve rare disease, right? They're already pouring into figuring out, how to cure this or how to deal with their symptoms, and lamenting the stress of like, now I'm asking them to be donors too. Christina, like how, like it's too much. Like I'm going to the sort of the mentality of I'm going to the well too much. And when I talked to the three of you, you had this like, oh, no.
No.
I want to like dig into that so bad.
We know we are so fortunate.
It's so
so
cool.
fortunate.
So talk to the burnt out founder or executive director who has this belief system.
So in our case, our foundation, when it was founded back in the 80s, was established primarily to raise funds to keep our residents at BRC if they run out of money. And just over the years, our residents, if they're able, often want to support that fund. So many of them tell me, I never know when I may need that.
Ooh, that's good.
So that is, they just are a very generous, caring group of residents.
Yeah. What else do you have? Yeah.
I think too, it just speaks to we are a unique community. And I say that because, our residents, we are interacting with them almost every day.
Yeah.
And we have that great privilege of building relationships with them and building that community. And I think for us, a big part of this too is we've taken that time to really intentionally craft a community and a culture where they are very tangibly feeling like they are a part of something. And I think for our residents who feel that, they are inspired by that and they want to give back. They see the opportunities that they have to live life and live it well and to be engaged and to hopefully thrive. And I think they also want that for their neighbors.
Yep.
And so, what we call our Forever Family Fund, we have a strong history of residents giving to that. But also with the Live Well campaign, I think for us, that was also a result of the years of work that we have put into really making sure that the residents and our community at large can tangibly feel our culture and are touched by it. And so much of that, we talk all the time about really fostering an environment where relationships and connections can thrive. And so it's this mutually benefiting relationship where we have residents who want to give and even in ways that we hadn't traditionally done in the past. We have, just as part of the Live Well campaign, residents who said, I want to give specifically to team members because we see how hard they are working.
Yep.
We know how they care so deeply for us. And truly, we have team members who just go above and beyond. I mean, we could sit here all day and share stories of how our team members do such a beautiful job of going beyond just clinical care and really just making a deep impact in the lives of our residents and their family members. And that, because we have that closeness and we've put so much work into creating that intentional culture, I think that a lot of times speaks for itself and that inspires our residents to want to give. And so that example of, yes, we have a resident who said during the pandemic, I want to give, but I want it specifically to go to team members.
Yeah.
And we want to be able to see that. And our vice president, she did such a great job of walking them through the idea of, well, let's think through how we can make this an impactful gift that you can see the fruits of your donation. And so we have we call it Culture University, that was supported during the pandemic by a donor that wanted to pour into the lives of team members. And now that's going to programming specifically for team members of doing financial wellness seminars, any personal growth, any stress management seminars, anything that's going to help them as a person while they're on and off the clock. And so I think we're really unique in that sense that they can feel how special it is to be a part of our community. And I think that is inspiring for them to want to give.
What you're saying is, it's reminding me, or I'm thinking of this word of like this magic. It sounds like there's a magic that is different in your community than other, we're talking about communities, than other communities. Like there's a richness. But I'm thinking of a school that I've worked with in the past, and it's that there's a magic there. When you're on campus, there's a magic. The challenge is, if I'm not on campus, how do I share that magic with a donor or a donor prospect if they are not seeing it? So how do you, is it through stories? Is it through videos? Is it through appeals? Like, what does that look like, sharing that culture to donors?
I think stories is a great one. You know,
Yeah.
we have a whole program that we implemented years ago to really capture these stories, because when we talk about stories and what we do in our industry, you know, we call these stories, they're the soul of our organization, because so much of culture and that feeling, we get that all the time, that, hey, I come onto your community and it feels different.
Yep.
I hear that from residents, and I hear that from every new team member that comes to our community, that there is a palpable feeling.
Yeah.
And that can feel very intangible at times, like you can sense it, but what is it? When we can have that story and we can share that, that's when it becomes real. And I think that's when we can share it and celebrate it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what captures a lot of parts of our donors and our supporters.
With the Live Well campaign, did you gather stories ahead of time to like bank them for videos, for appeals, for donor conversations? What did that look like?
I don't really recall.
Actually, leading up to the Live Well campaign, we were actually, we spearheaded a community study, a senior community needs assessment
Okay.
that was a little bit more global. I mean, it was for our town and the surrounding city and counties. And so it was spearheaded by us, but we pulled in James Madison University students, Bridgewater College students, and it was during the pandemic, or right at the beginning of the pandemic, and we were really canvassing all types of other organizations, getting out into the community. We set up booths at the fair and all these different places to collect data. And we got out of that several key findings of what the needs of the seniors in the greater community were.
What were some of the surprising things, or the things you learned where you had a hunch, right? And that you proved true? So either.
Well, housing was definitely a big one. Transportation.
Yep.
And the third one escapes me right now.
Okay.
But in doing that, we also did conversations with our residents.
Yep.
And from those conversations, gleaned some of the things that they were looking for. Like, we've got this great place to live, but, you know, it'd be really nice to have some educational opportunities, whether that was partnering with the local community college or whether that was presenting something for ourselves. So we were just gleaning all of these different things.
Yeah.
So it was more of what they wanted that we were looking for.
I love the idea of a study, almost pre-launch, right? And I like that you went into the community and beyond to go, what is the pulse of this, right? And then that helped inform your stories and your campaign.
Right.
Yeah. Let's dig into, you've mentioned some of the funds that came through. So let's talk about some of the funds, because there's some really cool outputs of this.
Yes. So, of course, the first one is our Forever Family Fund, which supports our residents who run out of money. But we also established the Work Well Fund, which is for team members. And Annie touched on that earlier when she talked about that. But so the Work Well Fund is like an umbrella fund that is for team member education and well-being. And also under that, we have our Team Member Relief Fund, which supports our team members if there is a catastrophic event in their lives and they need some financial help to get through it. And that is a grant-based program, so they do not need to repay those funds. We also have a professional development program for our team members. So say for an example, if a CNA wishes to go back to school to become an LPN, we can help them pay for that. We will cover up to 75% of their tuition. And for team members who want to do other trainings or something related to their fields, we also have funds that can assist them. We have our Energized Life Fund, which is resident programming, and we've had some really neat things come out of that. One of those is our innovation grants, and Tammy has really worked closely with innovation grants, so you may want to talk a little bit about that.
I would love to. Actually, I looked up a few statistics for this. We are almost at the end of our second full year of grants.
Okay.
And our first year, so our innovation grants are opened up to all team members, regardless of their role. If they have an idea of something that they believe would enrich the lives of other team members or of residents or a community outreach project, they can apply for a grant. And it goes through committee, and it's determined whether or not those will go through. So our first year of grants, we gave out $85,000. Our second year of grants, we gave out $295,000. And so those grants have funded some really awesome programs, which was kind of the whole goal of the Live Well campaign. So we have bought Tobra TOEFL systems, which is an interactive system that is targeted for people with cognitive issues, but it's also used for different types of therapy. And we started out with one, our first year of grants. We have now funded 7 additional ones. So we've funded a total of 8. We also partnered with another community agency, and we matched funds for them to be able to purchase one because they didn't have the same capabilities that we had. We have done an on-site speaker series. We are getting ready to host our 3rd senior prom.
What?
We did.
Stop. That's so fun.
Oh, it's so fun. This year we had a frontline team member apply for a grant for an overnight trip to take assisted living residents off campus. And
we love a field trip.
And they did an overnight trip. It was fabulous. Such amazing feedback. We've done created a teen break space. We have Opening Minds Through Art, which is an art therapy program. We have funded 2 positions. So the first year, one of the concepts was to have a first year salary funded by a grant to determine if that would be a permanent position. So we funded 2 positions. We have partnered with Valley Program for Aging Services, which is our local agency, to help them buy an accessible vehicle because their vehicle was failing. All kinds of other community outreach. So amazing things that this particular campaign was made possible for us.
I'm thinking of like the families of the residents hearing about the field trip, the families of the residents seeing pictures from the prom, and I'm getting very excited.
Right? What? No, I didn't end up going. And to be honest, we do a lot of that already. That's already ingrained into what we do. But you said this well this morning in your session, Christina, about being bold and taking risks. And this whole innovation grant process that we have, it really allows us to do that. It allows us to, one of our core values is innovation. We teach it, we say it all the time. It's not something that's just on our walls, but
it's not just a buzzword.
It is not just a buzzword. I mean, every team member that comes to our community, they receive the message that, hey, we want your feedback. We want your fresh eyes, your ears, your ideas. And we're not just saying we want to listen to your ideas, but we actually have raised the resources to be able to support those ideas. And it allows us to take some risks and try some things that, hey, this would be great. Maybe we're going to operationalize it if it's maybe a new position, if we're testing it out and seeing what kind of impact it makes in our community. Or, we're taking nursing and assisted living residents on vacation because who doesn't love a great vacation? And how impactful is that? You know, one of my favorite stories from that trip is this was a frontline team member who coordinated this amazing trip to go to the lake. And we've never done an overnight trip like this before. We've gone to the beach and theme parks and things, but this was our first time doing an overnight trip. And they ended up renting a pontoon boat. And it was a resident's first time ever riding a boat.
What?
On a boat.
Yeah.
And you think about the impact of that. And without that innovation, without having such an innovative campaign and being intentional about setting aside funds for that purpose, and then really making sure that our community is using it and using it well, it's a great privilege. It really is.
I think it speaks to the culture you've created, because it would be very easy to say, we can't do that. It's going to be too hard. How are we going to plan this? Logistics, right? We don't do field. We've never done a field trip before. How are we going to rent? Yeah. And it's like, and that's what sets you apart, is that you're like, all right, yes, we can. Here's how we're going to do it. That's so cool. That's so cool. Any lessons, kind of big lessons learned or takeaways, whether it's through this campaign or just through the recent years, that stand out to you?
Relationship building is key.
Okay. Say more.
We could not do what we do if it weren't for the relationships that we have developed with our residents and other donors over the years. Just getting this, telling the stories, sharing the stories, and how they have helped make a difference in the lives of the people we serve.
If I can, I'll just add on to that. One of the other gifts a very large gift that we received, kind of adjacent to the Live Well campaign, because it was not one that we went looking for.
Okay.
Due to the great relationships that Missy and our outgoing VP have created, one couple came to them and said, we have X amount of money that we would like to give, and we'd really like to create a walking trail. So through a whole series of other things that then happened, and another donor couple that came alongside, this amazing walking trail, a mile long, all completely accessible with multiple terrains, was created. And that was only made available because of that relationship building that had taken place. That
Co-creating that vision.
You know, Missy and again, Annie is our incoming VP, but our outgoing VP have just been so strategic about knowing what it is that is important to our donors. Like this couple is really passionate about this thing, and we have this opportunity, and pairing those two. With it, that's just been magic. That's magic.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wasn't a part of the Live Well campaign, but I also think, just from my perspective, one thing that's been instrumental is our focus on teamwork too, because you know, this foundation team, we have almost 500 team members in our community. The foundation team has traditionally been 3 people.
What?
We're small but mighty.
Small but mighty. And you know, I think about how our community has really leaned into teamwork over the last couple of years, and been very intentional about that. And these ladies who have worked with the foundation team longer than myself have really done a great job of helping everybody who's involved in our community know that they are fundraisers too. That so many of the reasons why our donors want to be engaged and want to make an impact themselves is because our team members have made that impact, and they have really made a difference in their lives. And so making sure, I feel like these ladies have just done such a great job making sure that our team members know, yes, you are showing up to work and you're doing a really important job, but you need to realize that the impact that you make is multiplied. And that's just been really fun to see.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm curious, given the audience you serve, the work you do, our seniors are I just feel like they're so fun.
They are.
Right?
They are.
And if I may, I do think there's a correlation that I'm sure we could find it. The older you get, the more you're just like, I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to say it. Right?
About that.
And I love that. I love it.
It's a lot of honesty.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thank you. Thank you. There's a lot of honesty. I also feel like there's a correlation to age and stubbornness. I lovingly say that because I'm going to be how I am, right? It's like, this is how it is, right? I'm not going to, right? So any stories from our senior favorite stories or like standout residents that you would like to share?
In some ways, I feel like we have a couple hundred grandparents.
Oh, that's good. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
The worst part of our job is that we lose our friends way sooner
Yeah.
than we're ready.
How do you deal with that? That's inevitable. It's interesting. Our other guest for this series, we were talking about the same thing, and it's like how that's part of the gig, right? How do you support your staff? How do you support your residents in dealing with death? If we may go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually like that question in an odd way because truly, I think we're fortunate to do really important work.
Yeah.
And I know this can sound a little odd, but we often attend our residents' funerals, memorials, celebration of life services. And something that is so impactful to me is when you are there celebrating their lives, and so often, so much of the focus is about the amazing years they had, these last years of their lives. And, I went to a service and one of the main stories that they told was of how their dad was taken from BRC on these bus trips to go visit his farm and drive around his home place, and how he would intentionally get the bus lost so we could stay out longer.
I love it. A little rascal.
Yeah,
Like, I love
I
it.
just think about it of truly, it's an honor.
Yeah.
It is such an honor. And we know that's a part of it, of having to say goodbye. You build these incredible relationships, and you get to know these people with amazing life stories, and it's so impactful. And you do have to say goodbye. But I think for so many of us, we can count it as such an honor to be a part of their lives in a really delicate time of their lives. It can be a very vulnerable time.
Yeah.
But we get to create really special memories with them. And something we say in our community all the time is we live life together. So we are all in more admin jobs, but all of us have the opportunity I play pickleball with the residents, and Tammy's doing art, and Missy's doing fit and fab every Friday.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
No matter where you are in our community, you are expected to be a part of it. And so we all build those relationships. And I think for all of us, it is an honor. It truly is an honor. As sad as it can be to say goodbye, I think we can see how special it is that we get to be a part of their lives in such an intimate way.
I hear a lot of reciprocity in our conversation today versus how do I get a donation? How do I get, right? I hear a lot of it's as much for you as it is for me. It's as much for us as it is for them. I'm hearing a lot of that. And I think that's a lot of the magic that clearly exists in your residents, in your staff, in your donors, and all of it. So thank you. Thank you for sharing. We ask every guest to share a favorite affirmation, thought, mantra, go-to. And I would love it if y'all would share yours.
We have a community mantra. So
Perfect.
I'm just going to
Let's
share
do
that. And if we could just do that as the group, because it's something we all know.
Let's hear it.
So as a community, we have a mantra. Again, we have this intentional culture, but we really needed a mantra that was simple and something that really captures the spirit and that essence of, you keep using that word magic, but we wanted to capture something that really points towards that impact and that connection. And so for us, that mantra is fill the cup. And we want that as a mindset of, hey, how can we fill the cup of somebody else? And it's actually inspired by a quote that we encountered years ago that says, the pessimist sees the glass as half empty. The optimist sees it as half full. The servant leader fills the cup up and looks for someone who's thirsty. So for us in our community, and that really is truly the mindset when we think about, coming to work each and every day. So much of us, we are juggling so many things in our lives. But if we can walk through the doors each and every day and think, how can I make an impact on just one person?
Yeah.
How can I make a small difference? That might just be a smile.
Yeah.
Calling a resident by name, sitting and having coffee with somebody.
Yep.
Or maybe it is taking them out to lunch that day or doing something out of the box and doing something special. The flip side for that is also you can't pour from an empty cup. And so we really emphasize and prioritize us not only taking care of ourselves, but also peer to peer. How are we taking care of each other as teammates? And those are actually some of our favorite stories as a community too, of how we are taking care of each other.
Yeah.
Because we know if I feel supported and like I have healthy relationships and the support that I need to hopefully thrive, that's going to impact my attitude and how I show up and how I interact with our residents, with my fellow teammates, and anybody that I'm going to encounter throughout the day.
So good. Thank you
Fill
for
the gap.
sharing that. That was good. Well, we would love to connect with you. So where is the best place our audience, our listeners can find you?
Our website is www.brcliving.org.
You can also find us on Instagram. It's
BRC Living.
BRC Living.
Yeah.
We're on TikTok.
Facebook.
Yay, TikTok.
Bridgewater
Thanks,
Retirement
marketing team.
Community.
Yes. We will link to it. Amazing. Thank you so much.